Welcome back to DLS Wave. We are back again with another interesting episode. And in this episode, we're going to talk about something very, very interesting, and we are pretty sure you'll be interested in it as well. What are we talking about today? It's about the free visa waivers that are catching on in Africa now. Prior to a week or two ago, only 3 African countries allowed visa-free entry for all African passport holders. Or all Africans, I should say, not just passport holders. But in the last week or so, we've seen Rwanda, the president of Rwanda, Paul Kagame, has announced that his country is opening up to all Africans, visa-free entry. And President Ruto of Kenya is also coming up with, he's actually made a statement saying that by the end of this year, by 31st of December, they would have finished all the preparations to allow Africans to be able to travel to Kenya visa-free. This is welcome news. We think this is an interesting development, and I'm sure many people are excited about this. So let's get right into the discussion. Welcome back. So with me for this discussion today, as usual, we have D and we have S on my right and left. To me, it is exciting. What about you guys? Let's get your first opinions about what is happening with the visa issues, and then we can go on with the discussion. So let's start from my right.
I think it's been long overdue, right? I mean, if you compare it to the West, let's say US or Europe or Asia, right? It just kind of, I mean, Asia is not really like the countries are kind of like far apart from each other, but it's like the States or Europe. It's kind of weird that moving from one country to the other in Africa, it's like you really need a visa and you have to go through like the hustle.
Right.
Just like traveling to Europe, it's kind of super weird, right?
Yeah.
Because if you look at the states, US is like, what, 50 states? Plus, let's say Puerto Rico, you have like 51 states. And Africa has how many? 52 countries?
54.
Real close to each other, right? Similarities are very, very, very like close.
Yeah.
We're really close. So, yeah, I mean, it's long overdue. I mean, it's exciting, but it's long overdue. We don't really know what took them this long, but I'm pretty sure there's like a lot of things. You got like mechanisms and like, you know, technological stuff you have to put in place to be able to kind of like, you know,
get to that
implement
point.
this kind of like big time policy. So kudos to the government. I mean, if it's I feel like there should be a ripple effect, right? Other countries should catch on. I read this morning, I think our foreign minister, what's her name?
Shirley Yokobochi.
Yeah, she said Ghana is also considering it very seriously. So I think that would be great. It would be good. I mean, talk about trade, tourism, amongst that would be
free
awesome.
flow of money and all that.
That would be really
We'll
awesome.
get into the nitty gritty.
We'll get into details.
So long overdue, Steven?
I think free flow of movement within the African countries, or people, persons within the African. When you look at it, it's expected to deliver certain key benefits.
Right.
Because yes, we know one country is better than another, and all that. We think about our securities and stuff.
Right.
But holistically, it will bring a whole lot of benefits.
Right.
First and foremost, I look at Africa as one people. Yeah, we are one people divided by whatever reason.
Right.
And it's about time we learn to open our borders for each other, to move freely.
Right.
To because at the end of the day, the only thing that separates Africans is the language.
Right.
It's the language.
And even in some places, it intertwines. Like you have in
Exactly.
Ghana, Togo, Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, you have,
But it's just the language.
Right.
Because when you look at a skin tone,
I mean, culturally, like, you know,
and then culturally, but when you look at it culturally too, but deeply, we have so many things in common.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Cultural lifestyle, even the language. I mean, English is pretty much prevalent, like in everywhere you go. So
Even the local dialects, some of it. If you go to Nigeria, you have people still speaking Amegan.
Pidgin, right?
Yeah, they
I'm
even
talking
say
about local dialects.
Yeah, they say that the Ga people actually originated from parts of Nigeria. Yeah.
We come from far.
Yeah.
But my point
Ogbejeke.
is Ogbejeke. My point is when you look at Africa before the separations, it was based on empires.
Yeah.
You understand?
Clans and all
Clans
those. Yeah.
But when you look at just the empires alone, we are one people.
Yeah.
crossing among each other, and then later or whatever happened.
Right.
Yeah?
Right.
So for us to kind of start waking up, or now we are seeing the light, and we've realized the light that we are seeing is not actually a train. It's not a train. It's a real light that is going to lead us somewhere.
Right.
Buzanga
Volvo.
Not a train.
My puppy had one before. Yeah. But the kind of light that the current leadership from a couple of countries, it's what is the word? Rejuvenating. It's like now you look back. Yes, there's so much we can do.
Yeah.
As in infrastructure development wise.
Right.
But this is just the step.
Right. That was going to bring me to the next question. Yeah. So we can say all these things. Good. It is good for everyone. But why now? Like you were saying, long overdue. Why do you think it is at this point in time in our history that African countries are beginning to realize that it's long overdue? Why now? Why didn't we do it earlier?
There's a saying like, what goes around
comes around.
There was a period, if you read about history, we were a dominant force.
Right.
As in the continent of Africa. Let's say somebody like Mansa Musa traveling around sharing gold like there's
it said that he was the richest person who ever lived.
Yes.
And when he was going on pilgrimage to Mecca, every country he went through, gold prices dropped. So because he was giving out for free.
It means you know your history. So when you go deep, you realize that we were a cool place to live. We mind our business, we do our thing the way we want to.
And let me not even catch you. Yeah. They say that even the first university started in Africa.
Education, everything, medicine and everything. And this is not because we are Africans, but
these are facts. Yeah,
it's facts.
Yeah,
you know, and also because we are Africans,
and because we are proud Africans. But the thing is, what goes around comes around. We messed up somewhere.
We're trying to correct all those.
And there's a saying like reincarnation. That's the word I was looking for. Reincarnation. If you look at the children we are giving birth to now, even from my generation.
No, your generation is like 1957.
Guys, forget about these two. I know this guy. He's waiting to say something.
He's an ancestor. When Tinubu, the Nigerian president, was elected, someone said, "How can you elect an ancestor? He's not even a grandpa."
He's an ancestor.
Okay, from the kind of the generation I'm seeing, it's like
there's this awakening. Yes,
there's this awakening, and it's refreshing. It's refreshing because it like he said, far overdue. But because we've left things to be rotting so much, now we are doing what a mechanic will say: you're wedding and joining things together to get your structure or your boat to sail again. You understand?
Right.
So I'm happy. I'm happy, and it takes one.
Yeah.
You always take one.
Yeah, the first step.
And it's a huge step.
Yeah.
Not only Ghana and South Africa, but Rwanda. Is it Kenya?
Rwanda,
Kenya,
Gambia. You mean they're all visa free?
Yeah.
I think it's
Kenya,
Gambia.
Kenya, South Africa.
Gambia.
South Africa.
Rwanda is going on.
Yes.
Rwanda,
but it's coming.
Yeah.
And we are getting there.
5 countries now.
As long as some of them would not allow their selfishness to lead them, this is the way.
Right. And I believe that as long as other countries get on the train and eventually becomes a continent-wide thing, the benefits are enormous, which we'll go into details.
You don't even want to know the benefits.
But let me go back to you. Why now? Why do you think we didn't do it earlier? What is prompting the countries or the leaders to realize that, okay, this is the time?
I think as he said, as Steve said, right? I mean, historically, that is fine. We can go back in history and say, the richest, the most wealthiest person that came from Africa, blah, blah, blah. It's all good and sound, but then we have to be realistic. We cannot keep, relying on the past and just, be proud of it, and it's like we do nothing about it. But I feel like the biggest thing that is kind of like bringing about these changes are like technology.
Yes.
I feel like now we're more connected more now than ever, right? It's unparalleled. It was like before you could listen to the radio, watch TV, get snippets of what's going on around the world, but now it's like real time.
Yeah.
Right, real time. You can get
and everyone's a journalist with your phone.
Exactly, right?
Before you continue, like because of technology and meeting here in China, I didn't know that we're in the same country, but he looks like my uncle Loco.
Probably I am. You never know. It's a small world. Yeah. So what I'm saying is like, and also like this brings about a kind of like unity amongst the youth. Yeah. It doesn't matter what country you come from. Now we can all vibe together, right? And you can read that there is more. There are more like similarities than there are differences.
Right.
So it's like I feel like, and also like, I don't like Ruto, the Kenyan president. Rwandan president Kagame, they're not that young, but they also kind of like averagely younger than the
average African president.
It's usually like 75, 80, 85. Those guys were so disconnected from the youth. They did not really understand what our grievances were. But I feel like these guys are not kind of listening, paying attention, looking at where things are going. They can tell.
Probably watching the young YouTubers and all that.
Yes, if they do not make differences. Sorry, it will not make any difference right now. It's like they have no legacy to kind of like
leave behind
for their kids and their country as a whole. Because some of these guys are like Kagame, he fought for the liberation of his
Rwanda,
people.
Yeah.
So somebody like he know what it feels like to be down in the trenches and go through like stuff like that. So I don't think he wants to see his people go through the same thing. So I feel like it's a great thing like going on. But then again, we have to be very mindful.
Right. We'll come to that. We'll come to the risk and all that.
Yeah.
But I also wanted to add that prior to this awakening, we've always had these blocks. ECOWAS since 1975, and SADC, the Southern African one. Central Africa has its own sort of small union. These unions have been going on for so many years, and we haven't really had any problems. I mean, you can leave Ghana, go to not even with your Ghana card. You can go to any of those 15 West African countries. If you have to work, you need a permit, but just to travel, you don't need. It has gone on for so long, we haven't had any major issues. So why can't a continental-wide version of it be successful? I mean, the beginning there'll be some problems, but it'll even out after a while. But let's go on to
before we go on. You see, the reason why I'm so happy that you
really look happy.
Yeah, we are starting this visa-free thing. A couple of days ago, I heard South Africa. They were threatening to leave like the
AU.
Foreign investment due to strict visa regime.
Right. Okay.
You understand?
Right.
And when you think about like economically what we can do for each other alone, if there is this level of free visa thing, where I have a brilliant idea, and in Ghana nobody is taking me serious. Let me put it that way. Yeah. I can decide. Let me try
find another guy from
let me just
somewhere.
take gamble. Go.
No, it's interesting that you bring that up because that is exactly what causes the brain drain from Africa to the West.
Right.
Yes. So
right, because
instead of going to the West, thank you. So my point is, instead of going to the Western country,
easy way to connect with another African.
Where even going to that Western country, I have to sell my jetry, as in my living, or my
your
investment,
initial starting capital.
Yes, starting capital to go, and it is a risk I'm taking going to America or this Western countries. If I'm taking that same risk, I don't need to spend that kind of money with this visa free, and with my knowledge, I'll go to a Benin or a Togo or a South Africa or Namibia, Guinea-Bissau, Equatorial Guinea, or any of these countries, and like I'm taking a gamble to America or anything, I could shine there.
Right.
You understand? And it's within the continent.
And the ideas you have doesn't mean that you can only succeed in a Western country.
No,
you could succeed in an African country.
Yes,
and maybe even way easier because there will not be too much restriction on documentation and all that. So we've talked about why now. Let's take a look at. Let's first look at some of the before the race. Let's look at some of the specific benefits that this opening up will bring if eventually becomes a continent-wide thing. What are some specific important benefits that could accrue to the whole continent?
For me, I think the first is it will improve transborder infrastructure and shared development. You know, because now as Ghanaians, Ghanaians have been going to South Africa for a long time now.
Yeah.
But then with the stories, you have to wait for somebody to call you and tell you what they've seen. But now, if you're able to raise a certain cash, you can go and see it yourself. So when you come back, you stand a chance of asking your leaders the critical questions, because not only that you've been told, but you've seen it yourself.
Right.
You've witnessed it because you've gone to another country and you've seen that it can be done.
Right.
And it is not in a foreign land. It is on your own continent.
Right. So you're talking about this inspiration.
Inspiration. You get inspiration from other countries.
First-hand experience.
Yes, first-hand experience.
Right.
That is the first. I don't know about...
For me, it would be like the total, like, annihilation and, like, depletion of, like, embarrassing each other, right? It's like, I mean, think about it. It's like, if you're a Ghanaian and you want to go to, like, Namibia, right? You need a visa, and it's like, it's super embarrassing. Why is that? Because the so-called first world countries, some of them do not even need visas to come into some of these countries.
Think of an American going to Europe, doesn't need a visa.
Exactly,
but America and Europe are two different continents.
Yes.
No, but that's
so
what
why
I'm saying.
we need the same continent?
Yes, like a German going into France. You do not need a visa, right? It's like the same continent. So my point that I'm trying to make is that sometimes you're trying to get into these countries and you see like your fellow, like, you know, not necessarily Africans, but your fellow human being. I mean, from first world countries, and they get the pass, right? Because they have like an American passport, Canadian passport. They get to working freely, and you from the continent. This is like your own brothers and sisters, your own people. Yeah. And
they'll
then
pull you aside and
you get
interrogate you,
taken to the side, 10,000 questions, right? So there is a big disparity, and it makes me feel like at least this is the first thing we're gonna kind of handle, take care of, to avoid these embarrassments. Because I mean, think about the notion, right? This guy or person from the first world country sees you treating your own brother and sister like that. What is he gonna think about the countries visiting in the first place? That you guys are backwards, you savages, you're primitive. You deny your own people like access to your country, but I get to work in free. Right. So that is like a total no. So it's a good thing on that front.
And
secondly, with the blocks you read about, like, you know, ECOWAS and
SADC and all
that, I feel like it was imperative, if not vital, because you start small. Because these things are like, we're talking on a continental level, right? Because even doing something on a regional level, national level, it takes a lot of like funds, a lot of technology, a lot of like, you know, stuff to, you know, put things in place. So I feel like it takes time, and I feel like we're getting there. So kudos. I mean, that's all we can say, right? So we just got to keep going, like, you know, full force. There should be no turning back. There should be no turning back.
I think if I would take something from what Amaya, our famous YouTuber, said. He was going to go with his team of 4, was it 3, if I'm not mistaken, to Congo. I don't know if it's Congo Brazzaville or Democratic Republic of Congo. So he said getting a visa to one of the Congos in Ghana was $250 per person, if I'm quoting him right. So with a team of 4, he was paying $1,000. And the most annoying thing is, even to get a flight there, you had to transit here, transit there. So that was another, before you even finish your decision to go to the country, you spent almost $2,000. So how does that work? With that same amount, you could get a European visa for like 80 euros or 60 euros or whatever. So that's really a bummer. And I think that if these restrictions are taken off, I can just wake up in Ghana and say, oh, I had a former colleague here in China. He's now back in Zimbabwe. I want to go visit him. I go on Friday evening, and come back on Monday morning. It's because the visa aspect is already, I don't have to wait for a week or 2 or 3, and I don't have to pay extra money for visa. Now, one thing we should not forget is, if you charge me $250, which is, I think, ridiculously high, let's say $50 on average to go to another African country, that versus me just going to visa free and spending $300 whilst I'm in the country, which one makes more sense? The visa fee and the visa processing, bring this document, that document, will put me off. But if I know that I can just go and rather spend money there, have a good time, I would choose visa free, because what I'm going to spend there is a lot more valuable than all the stress I'll go through even before I get a visa. So from all angles, it just makes so much sense.
It makes so much sense for me on another level. Africa is big, but not that big. Because I'm in China. And I know.
Right.
But you see, what this thing would do is would actually push our leaders to a corner where they will look at it like, listen, a transport, it could be train,
right?
It could be, forget about plane, but it could be train.
Don't jump the queue. It's a major part of this discussion.
Okay. So I'm way ahead of the game.
Right. So
okay. So let me say something differently. What I'm really happy, you said something in your like, it has, for me, for years, it has never made sense. The fact that traveling within your own continent, and even going to Togo as Ghanaian,
which is supposed to be visa free,
you
end up paying more than if a visa is required.
It has never made sense to me.
Yeah.
And this is an opportunity that I feel all the African countries they should jump on it.
Right.
We should jump on it because I'm telling you, the doors is going to open.
Yeah.
Look at Europe.
Yeah.
Once upon a time, and I'm not talking about 50 years ago. I'm just talking about 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Where they open up, they join, and then they can move.
They created
Do you know what it did for those poorer countries?
Yeah. And they even say
I don't say small, poorer countries, because there are so many poor countries in Europe.
Right.
You understand? Why is it that Britain later decided to jump out of, because they felt they are the richest and blah 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 blah. But when you look at it, it helped those other smaller countries to benefit.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think we should not be naive thinking that our leaders do not know all these. They do know. It's just politics. And
so
also,
he asked you a question. I was expecting
influence.
I was expecting you to say something. Why has it been that long?
Politics and external influences.
Right.
So for me, it's like, the old adage goes, right? United we stand,
divided we fall.
And we've been free falling for like...
we're falling.
Falling like falling angels.
We're falling and waking up and falling.
Atomo in water, right? So the thing is, like I'm saying, at the end of the day, we all come from Ghana, right? But we were not even like...
considering going to another African.
This is what I'm saying. You don't even get that. No, you don't even get that motivation, that excitement to go see something else in like Kenya. I mean, I've been asked multiple times. Once people know you from Africa, they're like, "Oh, you ever been to a safari?"
No.
And it's even embarrassing because it's like you know, we have all these exotic places that people fly from the west, east, west to come see, and we as Africans on our own continent, we've never seen it before.
Exactly.
Because think about it, you don't want to go to other house to get a visa and whatever. It's okay. It's almost like you paying a teacher to teach your kid a Zonto.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, I mean, Ghana can...
What are you trying to tell me?
No, do you know what I mean, right?
like in Ghana, you know, like when it comes to the dance, like naturally we know how to dance.
Yeah. Oh, even at Ghana, that's what I'm saying. So you know, kind of like...
And I'm a guy and I don't even know how to dance.
That's what I'm saying. So it's going to be ridiculous to pay somebody to teach your kid a Zonto, right? Because it's all in the mix. It's all up there. So it's almost the same thing being on the continent, and then you want to go through such a hustle just to kind of travel to like a country that's like 2-3 hours away from you.
Right.
So people are not motivated. People do not want to do it. They would rather spend money because the hassle is more worth it.
Right.
When you're actually going somewhere far.
And you know the sad thing, you mentioned 2-3 hours. It is because we've not really looked at it beyond like what we see. But if we've decided to open this and we've joined our roads and we've done good roads,
highways,
it will not take you 3 hours.
Direct flights.
It will not take you.
Even flights are ridiculous.
Yeah.
Sometimes from
forget
like
about
Ghana
flights.
to South Africa, you got to go transit.
Imagine trains
somewhere.
It's
ridiculous.
because from here to Beijing alone, it could take you 12 hours depending on the plane. 5 hours.
4.5 hours.
4.5 hours.
Yeah.
But if you're using a certain type of train, like the night train or what, it takes you about 12 hours.
Yeah.
And then when you're using the locomotive one, then you are 24 hours or something. But at least you get there. You are not paying anything. You are just paying your fare.
Right.
And even the type of train or the type of transport you use will be cheaper.
Right. Right.
Economically, it would not be so hard on your pocket. So like you said, if you have money, let's say $1,000 to spend, you are not using it on a visa, you're not using it on transportation.
Yeah.
You're just using, let's say, 100 on transportation.